In this short video, I just want to introduce you to the idea of morphological analysis and how we might carry that out. This mess of symbols, this is a slide that we saw way back when we were talking about phonology. This is a transcription in the IPA of a speaker of the Ubich language. It's now extinct, but it was the language that had the most consonants of any language on earth. And so we have these like fa, cha, tk, o, ko, ja, karan. So basically, if you were a field worker, if you were sent to record and try to figure out and describe this Ubich language, you would be hearing this mess of crazy sounds. What a language researcher would want to do then is to try to figure out, okay, these are the sounds that I think I'm hearing, and then they would have to figure out what parts of the sound mean what. So in the French, this field worker's notes say one day, so fa, he saw meant one day. And then they were saying two people, so that he figured out that this part was the morpheme for two, this part was the morpheme which meant men. Then actually you have to sort of break up the string of sounds that you thought you heard into the morphemes by figuring out what part of this means what's going on in each of these. And sort of this you could say, oh, I think this is an article, okay, this part means one, and he's sort of breaking it apart into little morphemes. This is called morphological analysis, seeing a string of letters or a string of sounds and trying to break it into pieces to figure out what means what, so that you can reassemble the whole and figure out the meaning of the entire idea or the entire thought. One reason I love morphological analysis is because once you know how to do this yourself, the whole world can be your teacher by being observant. It's really the key to figuring out what the language that you're learning is doing by using the data which you overhear, which you oversee in your environment. Let me give you an example from Turkish. So I've been to Turkey a couple times, and I never took a Turkish class, but I was able to start figuring out some things about the Turkish language by just reading the signs. So this sign, Adana Simit Dünyası. What's going on here? So I know that Adana is a city in Turkey, the city that I was in. Simit, I know, is a kind of bread. It's like a Turkish bagel. And I know this because the man who holds all these bread is shouting every day, Simit, 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 Simit. So I was able to map the sound Simit to these round baking breads that he was clearly selling. I'm mapping the form to the meaning. I'm doing some morphological analysis even right there. And then there's this thing, Dünyası, Dünyası. Well, dunya means world. This is something that I was able to look up or ask about, but then I didn't know what the s ending is doing here. And as I started to look around the world around me, I saw lots of examples of the s ending. So Istanbul University is actually Istanbul Üniversitesi. Istanbul Protestant Church, Vakfı, is the Istanbul Protestant Kilisesi. Süleyman Mosque is Süleyman Camisi. And so actually this kind of s or c ending I see attached to a lot of words. I know that simit is bread. I know that universite is university. I know that chami is mosque. This is the same in Arabic or any of the other Muslim countries. That word chami has something to do with mosque. In kilise, from ecclesia, the Greek word, this is the word for church. And so I see they're adding this s or c ending to the end. What is it doing? Well, this s or c ending is actually saying this noun is being described by some other noun. So Adana Simit world is being described. What kind of a world is it? It's the Adana Simit world. Chami is being described by the name of Suleiman the Great. What kind of a mosque is it, or which mosque is it? It's Suleiman the Great's mosque. Istanbul Protestant Church, so church is being described by Istanbul and Protestant. So if there's a noun which is being described by another noun, Istanbul University is being described by Istanbul, I need to put this C ending on it. This would be sort of like the apostrophe S in English, but we would do it on the other noun. We would say Süleyman's Mosque, but this one would be Süleyman Mosque C, right? Or the Protestants apostrophe church. No, this would be Protestant Church C. So this is an example of seeing sounds or seeing letters frequently recurring in the same place, and by being able to think of, I know what this part means, I know what this part means, I know what this part means, this part I don't know what it means, let me see if I can figure that out. That's basically morphological analysis. Here's another example from Turkey. Here's a map of the red islands, the Kızıl Adalar. And what I can see actually is the word for island is ada. See, Sivri Ada, Yası Ada, Kinalı Ada, Burgaz Ada. And so since Ada is shared at all of these names, and I know that the meaning is shared and that these are all islands, I can guess that the word for island is Ada. That's morphological analysis. That's pattern finding. And then Adalar, this seems to be referring to this whole group of islands. So if Ada is the part which means island, what does lar mean? Lar probably means the plural part. So if we see this, ada, adalar, let's say that I found a book, a kid's book, Eğlenceli Trenler. Well, train, I can guess, is probably meaning train. I've got this picture of the train. It's a cognate with English, so I know the train part means train. And I've already figured out that lar is the plural form of islands, and if I see that ler might be the plural form of trains. It has this L and this R, it's a suffix. So I would see ada, adalar is the plural for train. Tren, trenler. Ler is, ada, adalar is the plural for islands. Tren, trenler. Ler is the plural for train. Then I might wonder, okay, if kilise is the word for church, which I saw, and dunya is the word for world, what would the word for churches be? I might predict that I would add an L and an R, and then copy whatever was the last vowel, like I did here. A goes there, E goes there, kiliseler. And then dunya, I put an L and an R and copy the last vowel, dunyalar. Now I might know, maybe it's copying the first vowel. Maybe it's this A, which says it's in there, and here's only one vowel, so I might want to find out, is it kilisilir or kiliseler? And I would be able to ask a Turk and find out it is kiliseler. Is it dunyalur or dunyalar? And I would be able to find out from a Turk, it is dunyalar. So I can use that morphological analysis, use that systematic mapping of sound to meaning to figure out more and to begin to learn from what I see, from what I hear around me. Here's some data from Mazatec, which is a language of southern Mexico. Here we have fa'a is takes, ti fa'a is or was taking, and ka fa'a is took. Sa is sings, ti sa is or was singing, ka sa is sang, cha speaks, ti cha, ka cha, fi goes, ti fi, ka fi. So what categories do we see being marked in this language would be one question I would ask. What's important about the world that Mazatec speakers decide to actually mark with a morpheme on their verbs? And what process is being shared sound between all of these things? And sings is the shared meaning, so I could say that sa itself means sings. And I can't break this apart any further based on the data that I have. So now I can break this apart. Fa'a is take, and it means the present tense, it seems like. Ti fa'a, fa'a means take, and the ti means the progressive aspect. Fa'a means take, ka fa'a seems like it means the past or maybe some sort of completive aspect. So I can apply that here, and the morpheme which would mean take is fa'a, the morpheme which would mean sing would be sa, the morpheme which would be progressive, these progressive ones all share the fact that they start with T. So T prefix would be the morpheme meaning progressive aspect, and then the past tense, all of the past tense ones start with this prefix ka, kafa'a, kasa, kacha, kafi. So I would think that ka would be the morpheme which means past tense. So this is basic morphological analysis, and I can use this if I learn a brand new word that I've never heard before. Maybe I learned the verb for eat. I know how to make the past tense form, just stick a ka at the beginning of it. I know how to make the progressive form, stick a T at the beginning of it. Another example of this, I'll use Lithuanian. This is the Lithuanian national dish, cepelini, sort of like a potato football with meat on the inside. I know that valgyt is Lithuanian for to eat. Valgyk means eat as a command. And valgykit also means eat as a command, but I would be able to notice that this is used whenever there's more than one person. Valgyk is a command to one person, valgykit is a command to more than one person. Gert is Lithuanian for to drink. Gerk would be drink for one person. Gerkit is drink for more than one person. So if I know that ateit is the verb for to come, What would a take be? A take would be, because the k is what's shared in common here, valgi seems to be the root, ger seems to be the root, ate would be the root. This k means a command form for one person. So a take would be, hey, come here, to one person. And if I wanted to command more than one person, hey, you guys, come here, I would say a take it. Valgi kim is let's eat. So again, I've got this command, but I'm commanding to all of us, this im. If I know that melst means to pray, what would the command for let's pray be? Well, the root for this, T seems to be the infinitive marker, so I would take off the T. Mels would be the root, and T would be the infinitive. And then I would add this kim ending for let's, so it would be mels kim. Mels kim. When we're doing these sort of morphological analysis, we can use this dot to mean a morpheme boundary. When we're talking about phonemes or phonetics, the dot meant a syllable boundary for an unstressed syllable, but in morphological analysis, it means a morpheme boundary. So ka, fa, a was the word we saw from Masatek. I would put this there. The fact that fa, a means take, I do here. And then when I'm talking about an inflectional category, the tradition is to write it in all caps. So this shows that it doesn't mean the verb past. This would actually be past as an inflectional category. I'm talking about past tense here. So ka means past tense, take means take, fa'a means take. So you can actually see this dot helps me to line up this part means this part means this. So this would be the morpheme by morpheme analysis. I'm sort of translating directly morpheme by morpheme. And then the gloss would be, if I take it as a whole, what would this whole thing mean? So ti, cha in Mazatec, ti would be the progressive aspect, cha would be the part that means speak. And if I were to kind of translate this into colloquial English, the gloss of it would be is speaking. Let's look at another example of morphological analysis just for practice. So Finland and Estonia are two countries across the Gulf of Finland from each other in Northern Europe, and they speak highly related languages. The conjugation in Finnish for to sing would be laulan, I sing, laulat, you sing, laulavi, he sings, laulamme, we sing, laulatte, y'all sing, and laulavat, they sing. So this is conjugation for person and number. First person singular, second person singular, third person singular, first person plural, second person plural, third person plural. Sort of the typical 6-part conjugation that we see all over the world's languages. What about the Estonian versions of this? In Estonian, it's laulan, laulad, laulab, laulame, laulada, and laulavad. Now, obviously, you can see the close relationship between these two languages. They're very similar. But what's an at in Finnish is an ad in Estonian. So t in Finnish becomes d in Estonian. V in Finnish is a b in Estonian. 2 m's and an e, meh, is just 1 m, e, meh. 2 t's and e, te, becomes 1, da. And vat becomes vad. Again, we see this correspondence that what's a t in Finnish can be a d in Estonian. What's a v in Finnish is a b in Estonian, at least at the end here. So I might want to make some predictions. If I know that the Finnish word for sport is sportti, what might the Estonian word for sport be? So here I have 1 t becomes a duh, t becomes a duh, t becomes a duh. I might make a guess that it's spordi, and that's actually true. This would be Tallinn University's sport club, sportklubi. It's not sportklubi. So there's a systematic relationship between Finnish and Estonian, and if I knew the Finnish form, I could guess the Estonian form, and if I knew the Estonian form, I could guess the Finnish form. If I swim is uin in Finnish, and it's ujun in Estonian, I can already make some guesses. If laulan is I sing, and uin is I swim, I know it's actually this n ending, which is the I part, and it's the rest of it, which would be the infinitive or the root. So laula is sing, and ui is swim. Uyun, again, it's the N part, which would be the I, and it's uyu would be the root for to swim in Estonian. So it's ui in Finnish, uyu in Estonian. If I know this, I can make a prediction without ever seeing it, without ever anyone telling me. How would I say we swim in Finnish? So uin, laulan, I take off the N and I get ui, and then it looks like I add mme to the root, so it would be uimme. Uimme would be we swim in Finnish. Uimme. And in Estonian, I would take the root, it would be uju, because I take the N off, which is the I swim part, and then I would just add one M and one E, it would be ujume in Estonian. So it would be uimme in Finnish and ujume in Estonian. And I can make those predictions by doing some regular morphological analysis based on a set of data that I have. All of this morphological analysis is very important. One of the reasons that's important is in order to do translation correctly. Translation is a very difficult thing to do for several different reasons. One is because of lexicalization. So different languages will have different lexical entries. A morpheme could mean one thing in a language, and the best translation for that morpheme could still mean something slightly different in another language. There's no real one-to-one correspondence or direct translation in the world languages. Also, there's different grammaticalization. This would be basically different languages have different ideas about what has to be marked in the grammar. What aspects of the world does a speaker of this language have to pay attention to because it's inflected for that. The verbs have to pay attention to person because they inflect for person. The nouns have to pay attention to number because they inflect for number. The nouns have to pay attention to case because they inflect for case. So let's look at an example of a language which is very different than English, which would be Korean. So this is a sentence in Korean. 경찰들이 건물 밖에서 살인범을 뒤쫓았다. So I can do the morphological analysis. Remember, these dots mean morpheme boundaries, and capital letters show something that I'm having to inflect for or notice about the world. So 경찰 is police, the plural is 들, and the subject is 이. 건물 is building, 밖 is outside, and then 에서 is the ending for location. 살인 is murder, 범 is agent, someone who does something, and 을 is object marker. 뒤 is after, 쫓 is chase, 앗 is past tense, and 다 is the declarative. I'm saying I'm making a declaration, a declarative statement about the world. So you can kind of see, so police, plural, they're the subjects doing something, building outside, and then there's that's the location of this. There's a murder, and then someone who does something, and that person is the object. And then there's after and chasing, and this is in the past, and I'm just saying that this thing happened. I can start to reconstruct that. Like a super direct translation would be something like polices, or like police peoples, the building outside of the murder doer person chased after. Now this doesn't make much sense. This would be a direct translation of what's going on in the Korean, and I can actually reconstruct that. But based on this information, I would say, well, if I wanted to convey this idea accurately or naturally in English, this would make no sense. I might say something like the policemen chased the murderer out of the building, but I'm making a decision. The Korean doesn't say that it's actually men who's doing this. It just says police. There's more than one of these police people. They chased the murderer out of the building. Well, actually, in Korean, I don't know. Is it that the murderer started inside the building and ended up outside, or did the whole act of chasing occur all outside of the building? It started outside the building and ended outside of the building without ever having gone in. That's really unclear in this English translation. We say that information gets lost in the translation. The Korean is not specific enough to tell me everything that I would need that English would force me to say. So I could also say something like the police pursued the murderer outside the building. So police, now I've decided I'm not going to say whether it's men or women, I'm just going to say the police. The police could be one person, though, in English, whereas in Korean, it's clear that there's more than one police officer involved. I might want to say the police officers. Maybe that's a better translation. And then pursued, this idea of chasing, but they're running after and chasing, or chased after. I could say chased, I could say chased after, I could say pursued. They would each have a slightly different connotation, and they're each a slightly wrong translation for this root here, and then outside the building, again, This means it looks like the murderer started outside the building and ended up outside the building, whereas in Korean it's ambiguous. Some of the chase happened outside of the building, but we can't tell from the Korean whether any of it happened inside of the building. So again, if I choose to translate it this way, some things are getting lost in the translation. I'm being more specific in English than the Korean is, and in some ways I'm losing some of the specificity that Korean gave me that English doesn't allow me easily to do. So this is why morpheme analysis is actually very important. And thinking about these lexical entries and what they exactly mean, we can actually start to see how mistranslations occur and how different information does get lost in translation, or different information gets made up or invented in translation, which is the opposite but equally important problem.